All right, hello folks. Welcome to Tuesday. A little earlier. Astrid first. Hey there, Benny. Hey, Narf Anko. Anko? You have to tell me how to pronounce that if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So welcome to, I've lost track of what episode number this is for working on, where is it? There it is. Working on putting this game online. So yesterday, for some reason seems like a long time ago, we finally got all of the waiting screen stuff. Hey, Suiji. We got the waiting screen done where we update who's joined. As well as sending notifications when stuff happens. So let's go here. Right. Oops, that's not what I want. I want the dock down there. So let's look at this, and let me see something. Fix that later. So yeah, Suiji didn't even get bronze. So one of the things that I was kind of bothered about yesterday is the fact that we ran into a bug for what was basically an out of order processing. So let's go here. Mainly because I don't have a good way currently to test this WebSocket inbound handler. So this inbound handler is basically, at least right now, is handling all WebSocket inbound requests, including both connections and handling the messages. And the protocol that we currently have is that when someone joins with a WebSocket, so when someone connects with a WebSocket, got to keep on my toes for using the correct terminology. Players join games, browsers connect WebSockets. And so there's code in here where the actual connection that's established by the WebSocket, right now I don't care about, because there's no information that's useful. It's not until I actually get the inbound message, which is triggered by HTMX, basically sending a message after we've connected, which is telling us that basically this WebSocket would like to connect to this particular game. Here's the game handle. The problem that we encountered yesterday was we were telling basically the use case, the application layer, hey, this player has connected to this game, before we registered them with the thing that's handling everybody's sessions, which is this shared WebSocket session handler. I need a better name for it. So what would happen is we'd inform the player connector, hey, somebody joined. It would initiate a broadcast, which would then send through the implementation whoever's connected. Yeah, impl. But because the person who just connected wasn't yet in the session, they wouldn't receive this broadcast. And this is generally the way I like these things to work, is I want them sort of one-way data flow. because I could have, as a response to this connection, basically sent something back through the WebSocket. And that's fine if you're doing sort of HTTP request response, but WebSocket is just this pipe where information goes through, and it can get very confusing if I'm updating things this way as well as updating things this way. So in order to keep things easy to understand, it's basically this one-way data flow. So it has to go like this, and then basically like that, basically back out to the WebSocket. But if you add it too late, then they don't get that initial message. So that's what this ordering of these two lines really mattered. And so what bothered me is that I have no good way to test that, which really there is a solution. I don't want to take the time to do it just yet until I have sort of more WebSocket stuff. But it's basically abstract stuff out, because this WebSocket broadcaster is a class I can substitute or detect or stub if I need to, and same thing with the player connector. It's really, I can't easily trigger this because I mean, I guess I could. It's a little harder to create some of these objects, and really to test are these two methods being executed in the correct order doesn't need all this detail. Right? What does it use? It uses the session for the connect, but I don't need a full-fledged, fully qualified session. WebSocket session itself is an interface, but it's a pretty big interface. And so I wouldn't, I could probably create there's probably a subclass I could create, like a standard WebSocket session, but it's really like you want to try and minimize creation because you don't want to go down the road of using something like Mockito to provide an instance that you can test against. And so this connect, while it uses the real session for the purposes of testing, in a sense, did I get the message that was triggered by this? I don't think I'd need that, or I would need to abstract this this connection, because in fact, yeah. So that would require some abstraction that I'm not quite prepared to make. I'd have to abstract this away a bit. Really what it's used for is when we send it, and again we might want to have we want to have an abstraction there so we can test it without having to use something like Mockito. So all that's to say is this was on my mind, and this is where code in adapters can get really hard to test because you're working with a library or a framework that's doing I/O that you don't have full control over. That's hard to create test instances for, and hard to handle when things happen. And so you either use something like Mockito and go down that nasty road, or you create abstractions, or you just test it manually and move on, which is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think this is a little bit lower level abstraction than something like a venue manager, because this is more about, like if I think about how would I test this code, in fact, really, how would I test, that I got the right payload, and especially once I start having to dispatch messages based on the payload, basically parse the thing and do routing based on the messages that are coming in. That's where I'm going to need some lower level abstractions around routing. So this is more technical. So even on the technical side, we need abstractions to help test us to still avoid direct I/O access. So I would need to figure out what do I need to abstract from these things that I could basically pull out so that I could have all of this code working in that new abstraction, so then I could test it properly. And this is where some of the once you have that, then you have some of the stuff around output trackers and things like that we could start leveraging. So let's go to Jira. And what did we say? So we want to show the start game button. So let's go here. So what we want is somewhere to be a start game button. I think I can finally drop this now since I know the notifications are working. And I think I'll probably want the button somewhere here. So let's fix that up. Let's see, that's the list items. Put that there. We're all good. So what do we want the button to look like? Yeah, pretty much some kind of nullable inbound adapter. And yeah, any messaging kind of thing is going to have a similar feel, because you don't want to create those raw, very technical things. Yeah. So I'll end up doing that. I just don't want to do it right now. So yeah, because I'll definitely want, especially once again, sort of as right now we have one WebSocket message, which is connect. There are going to be lots and lots and lots of WebSocket messages. Most of them will be wrapping player commands, but there'll be other things. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's a trade-off, and right now I am erring on the side of trying to get something working over, and it's a balance, right? I want to make sure that stuff is easily testable, but I want to use just enough. So we need a button. Let's go grab a button. Let's see. We'll go grab a Tailwind button. Where are buttons? There we are. Good old primary buttons. Let's grab this last one. So what we want is somewhere here. What do we want the button to do? That's the next question. So if it starts the game, I think we need more sequence diagrams. So this is the join sequence, which we now have working. So let's go and create another sequence. No, not task. Nope. Control Shift N is not what I want. I want a new plain UML file. So this is going to be start game sequence. We can delete that. Okay, so we've got the same actors. And we can delete all that. So we're going to have player one talks to. So let's see. So that's going to be game starter. I really am getting close to this idea of formalizing more of a command query structure, but I'm going to continue sort of treating these as tiny use cases until I get enough where I can kind of see what I need from a command set. So player one is basically going to talk to the game starter. Yeah, pummel files. And it's going to do basically a post to the game handle start. Technically not. Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about how restful that endpoint is. So that starts the game, and so then game starter will pretty much hand off to the game itself. Yeah, something like that. Then it will also once it starts, it's going to now start gathering up the information of the current state of the game. Oh, hey, Jonas. See, here I try to start early, and you're late. You didn't miss much. So we query the state, and then what we're going to do is in the game starter broadcasts basically refreshes the entire. I mean, this is the big thing. Are you all tuning in just for the rants? So once they click the start game, this disappears. I'm thinking, do I want to remove it from the DOM? But either way, I need to right. So I think all of these slots will be there when this dialog comes up. What won't be there are basically the cards. Well, actually, yeah. So when this dialog appears, no cards have been dealt. The deck has not been even created yet. So the board will be there. The slots for the players will be there. Those containers. Yeah, the players' names will be there. And I'll probably have some indicators because at this point, because the game hasn't started yet, players can still join. But I'm trying to like remember minimal, like what's the minimum I need? I think I can get the I'm just trying to think of the layout that I want. Let's go with some kind of grid layout. And then we can start filling in some of the stuff. So yeah, I don't think I need any of these. Yeah, so it's going to be something like that layout. Yeah, I'm going to prep the board, and then at some point I need to display, at some point the back end needs to tell the front end who's playing. And when they well, I guess I have to send a full update out anyway when they start the game, so I'll just set it up then. All right, so let's go into the playground. Oh boy, we get to do CSS. Yay. Yeah, I'm not I'm not doing the observer just yet, but it kind of is I'm just thinking like, I really need the observer because I will personally be an observer. So I'm not sure I'm going to do that yet. Yeah, the only problem with so I could be a player, but right now I'm limiting it to 4 just for layout purposes. So I don't want to take up one of those slots. And the other thing is I don't want to take up cards. So I can't prevent them from being dealt. So there is some stuff that I am automating, like doing the initial deal. So the observer is really part of the minimally playable game. Hey there, Kiss Killer. How many lines does it take to do a basic hello world? You could look at the spring guides and you could say it's not a lot. It's half a dozen. So I recommend for beginner stuff, go to the spring.academy. There's lots and lots of good guides there. That's how I learned. Okay, so what we want in here, we actually want a grid. A grid layout. Do I want a grid layout? How do I want to do this? Let's hide the modal. I definitely want a grid on the left. So that would be a 1 to 2 ratio, and then divide it vertically. So let's see. Yeah, I don't need any of these. So we got MX grid. So let's do grid calls 3. And then so what I want in, and then grid, and then gap 4. And then inside this div, so this is going to be the thing on this side. We want grid row. I don't know if I want to divide it equally by 3. But for now, that's the easiest thing to do. So let's say grid. What the heck? Grid. That was weird. Grid template rows 3. So this is so what's the height on these that I want? I need to look at some CSS stuff on grids. Hey, Noted Raccoon. They're considered minimal setup where game happens in real world. Yes, I mean that's in a sense what I'm doing. I'm basically not having the code enforce any rules. It'll do things like deal cards, but everything else is in a sense manual. So my assumption is that people are using this, but they're still connected via some video conferencing like Zoom. So let's see. All right. um, yes, we're going to be suffering with grid stuff now. So I think I want specific heights. So this grid rows does a min max of 0, and I actually don't want that. Yeah, the hardest thing to deal with, so I've actually, as Astrid knows, I've hosted a game where we're playing where I have basically the camera on this. This is actually a game that we were playing. The hardest thing to deal with is actually not the tiles and the board and the pawns and the risk counters. It's the cards. So just getting the cards online, that is actually my of all the goals in terms of staging things. That's the first thing, and in fact, it's the action cards that is the first thing, because that's the stuff that's been hard to manage, because like it's hard to manage these cards and have the people who are playing see them all. So I am definitely, that's in my head of sort of what I want the game to do. So dealing the cards, having people be able to see their own hands, be able to basically manage the cards on their own. That would be a big step forward in being able for me to host games. So let's see, template columns, order. Just trying to figure out Yeah, I just want to stretch out the space because I want to get some sense of what those are. So let's do this. So what is it? Grid template rows, right? That's what this is doing. Grid template rows. And so this needs to be then, what's grid flow? If I do, I don't understand the grid template rows thing. I thought I did, but I don't. Unless the outer thing is not taking on the full height. That's probably the problem. So I need this to be m max height screen. What are the max height stuff? What is H screen? All right, well, I'm gonna have to do some more figuring out because I'm not understanding the grid stuff. So that'll be the placeholder for that. This is gonna be so this will be column 1, and this will represent the board. I'm missing some basics here. So I've got display grid, right? Or no, I don't. That would help. There we go. So grid and then grid calls 3. So now I have the that correct. There we go. So I was missing the grid part. So now I've got these rows where I want them. So this is player 1, player 2, player 3. Board here, and then so that's column, and then what do we have here is the action deck. Oops. I did not realize I would be doing grid layout stuff, otherwise I would have been more prepared. So action deck, what else we got? So it's action deck and test results. And then in this section is your play area, except this needs to be inside of this div. Hey there, Curse. Welcome. So we need a div here. And so that's going to be, we're going to want to divide this grid, grid template rows. Why is it not suggesting? Hello. Let's do 4. Oh, let's do this. Let's go here. Let's do do I have the right order for this? Let's do that. Okay. Okay. So now I can let's see if we can make this thinner. So now I can see sort of the boundaries of stuff. So we've got a bit of, so we've got our gap here, so that's fine. So we've got our decks here. your play area, and then below your play area is, oops. What do we say? That's your hand. Okay. I think that's, is that it? We'll deal with the risk tracker stuff later. Yeah. Once I have this set up, then actually the dev tools make it really nice to see more details about the grid, but sort of that takes up its own space. So I guess I could evenly space these so we can put a div and then a div here. Wait a second. So it goes like that. Yeah. And we'll do a call span 2, 3, 2. Six, 3. Yeah, all right. Now I'm just let's go back to this. Okay. So this is basically our layout. Do we need anything below the board? No, we'll figure that out later. So I think that's it. That's our basic layout. Let's put a bit of padding that way. I don't need as much padding that way. All right, that's our board. So then what we want in player 1, so we'd like this to be and this will be class, this will be font, bold, text, I did commit. I did a copy to the clipboard. Text XL. What else do I want? That's pretty much it. Yeah, since I have Mackie, which is a clipboard memorizer, that's my commit. Okay, so we got our player names. We're going to want basically a place for their cards. I'm just going to display them. How do I want to display them right now? I guess I can just further subdivide this area into its own grid. So this, folks, is how you get like 35 divs nested. So this is their that workspace looks bigger than the hand. Why is that? Yeah, definitely stuff is going to be templatized. Yeah. So I really I have been going back and forth in my head around using timely fragments. Because all of the information I'm sending across is going over the WebSocket and not HTTP, that means I have to manually invoke the template. A lot of the stuff I did with Ensemble Timer was all just string manipulation, and the current HTML stuff I've got is also string manipulation. And I feel like the timeleaf stuff I mean, I can invoke the template directly, and I can the timeleaf template generation, and I can give it a context. It's just then I lose type information, and it's a little harder to test. I'm really leaning towards basically creating my own component system, because, you know, that's what you do. Like, I looked at Thomas Schurley's view component, but he's using a different template framework, and it's more HTTP oriented, so it doesn't really work for me either. So I'll likely create something on my own. So these would be I mean, I've created visual component frameworks before, so what, you know, nothing new here. I mean, there's not a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of customization I need, but my goal is to be able to have components like a card, and then it can display itself in different ways, either overlapped like here, or spread out like this. There's not a lot of sort of HTML, CSS for that, because those are just images. Like, most of this, the hardest part about this layout is, I mean, this is not the final layout anyway. This is just where I've left my mock-ups. is the larger layouts, but because once I have the spaces, the containers for each part, then it's just images. All right. I'm a little annoyed at why workspace and hand are not the same height, because it looks like I would have expected there's a min-max issue. Yeah, it's not a justify content because you can see the container is sizes are different. That's going to annoy me. So let's go see if we can figure that out. Let's go do an inspect. So what have we got here? Is it lying to me? Because it feels like it's lying to me. Like my eyes say these are different heights, except it's saying they're both 72.75 pixels. Somebody's lying to me. Because like, yeah, let me turn off the debug, and then we'll be able to see it. So this is the overall three columns. This is the first column, and this is saying each vertical section is 148 pixels. I think it's not taking into account this header. That's why. Because this whole thing is 148, and so divided by 2, that would be about 74. Oh, it is overlapping. Why is it overlapping? Because it's H full. But I want it to take up the full height. So then but I think that's already going to take up the full height. H-fit? What is H-fit? Um, I don't know what hfit is. It's suggesting it. I don't see it in the docs. That doesn't seem to do anything, or at least not what I want. So right now, um, yeah, clearly I don't understand grid. I feel like I want the fractional units, but I don't want the min-max. So I basically want that. But it's not taking up the full height. I don't understand the fractional units stuff. Maybe I want justify content stretch. Let's try that. What was it? Justify content stretch. feel like it's just not the div is just not taking up so this div is the correct height, but this div is not taking up the height that I'd like. This is why like CSS is so frustrating for me, because I just don't know this stuff. It's interesting, the line content stretch and so do I want a line content stretch as well? No. I feel like I've got exactly this and it's not doing what I want. Yeah, I was going to go to ChatGPT next. That's what I was going to do. Let's see what it comes up with. This is pretty much what I had, right? Display grid. The vertical height of the whole thing is fine. The nested grid is also grid, also one fraction, one fraction. So it did 100 vertical height, that's fine. Oh, it did grid count of columns. Yeah, the item was just for formatting that stuff. That's not important. Yeah, okay, so just changed it to template rows. I think that's what I'm doing. Because I've got the this div. And this div's got the H2. This nested grid. I've got grid template rows, right? That's what it suggested. Grid template rows, 1FR, 1FR. It had a gap. That's not relevant. I mean, grid is display grid. So the container did an auto and a 1FR. So I wonder if that's it. Because my outer container has nothing. So I wonder if that's how it did it. Let's try that. So that's so there's also a grid. Yeah. I agree to this. Yeah, so that's apparently how to do it. Basically, this container here, somewhere here it is. We needed to divide it further into two parts, so that it's auto, which is however high this this header is going to show. Then take the rest of it and divide it into basically, then take the rest of it is the rest of the fraction. Then once we have that, then this part here now takes the full height, and that's what we want. What happens if we remove the align column stretch? Does that do anything? Yeah, so apparently that is some other thing. So we can justify the content towards the end for the whole thing, or I'll just leave it. But now I know I can do that. Yep, committed. Yes, let's celebrate. Oh, I have my where is it? All right, so let's do that. I have to pipe the sound so it goes directly out instead of going out of my speakers into the microphone. All right, so so this is our basic layout there. I think this is now good enough. So player 2 is basically just going to be a duplicate of player 1. Let's convert this to sort of proper CSS. I'm using the Tailwind Playground, but I'm basically going to convert it to so we're going to call this div, this is a player, this is the player. This is the player grid. Player container. Yeah, probably because the noise suppression is trying to do its work. I'll pipe it correctly later. So our player container. Display grid, and then the grid template rows thing. And so we'll take font weight 700. Grab that. And so this becomes player name header. And then we can assign that here. We could do that here. And then this is the player, what do we want to call it? Player cards container. Okay. Then we want which div is this? This is these are the players. So this is display grid. And what else do we have? That's interesting. Looks like display grid already divided stuff up for us. So this interesting. So it looks like it already divided the grid into as many rows as I had. This is the all players container, so this is the entire column. Let's duplicate the other stuff. So we'll copy that and that, and let's tidy this up. So what's the difference between this and not having it? It looks like there's absolutely no difference. So if I don't have this and I happen to add yet another div, then it basically just divides it as many rows as there are. So basically it evenly divides it unless you specify it otherwise. Learn something new every day. So if I put this back, then player 4 basically says, eek. So I'll leave it at that. Because if we ever have more than 3 other players, then that'll be handy. Okay, and then for the board here, I don't need anything for that. And then this is grid rows 4, which I probably won't need. So this is our, I probably won't group these into one thing anyway. We'll just call this I call it last column because I can't think of a good description for it. So this is basically just a display grid. There we go. All right, so we can turn that off. Some kind of borders would be nice. So let's add a little bit of borders around each player. Thin, gray, dashed. Actually, I'd like something like something that looks a little bit more card-like. So let's go to Tailwind UI. I think I just want a basic card. So let's grab that. We would like a little bit of margin. So let's put some space here. Grid gap, grid row gap, row gap, row gap. Is that too big? So that's the all players container. The player container itself, we should like some padding. Yes. So I'm cheating here. I'm basically using the Tailwind CSS inside my own CSS. We'll change that. What do I have in my mockup? I just have a general shadow. Okay. There we go. We'll do something similar then for not the player name header. Yeah, I don't have anything for that. So what else? So here, so we're going to want some classes for our workspace and for our hand. Oh, it tidied up too much. Don't do that. I want these on separate rows. So this is class player workspace. This is actually other player workspace. Is that what I want to call it? Here's where I want to rename. It's like, I want to rename this. I want this to be other player container. And this is other player name header. All right, so this is all other player, and this is other player container, other player name header. Okay. Now we got other player workspace. What happened? Oh, I didn't rename the other ones. So other. Oh, I should just cut and paste, copy and paste it. Hello, the goat. Welcome. All right, so we got other player workspace, which we would like, I think also rounded large border a little bit of padding. Actually, I don't want a rounded border for this. Ground. That looks good. And then a border gray 200. All right, and want then other player hand to also be that. Let's apply that style. Where is it? Here. Other player hand. We'd like some space between those, so that would be on the container. I think that's it. Looks like these are the same. I wonder if these should be the same. Here they go. WebSocket with Spring. So you can go ahead and look at the code base. It's not necessarily going to be easy to understand because it's a work in progress. So there are two projects that you can look at. There's Ensembler, which has a lot of other stuff in it. The Ensemble timer code does the WebSocket stuff. But if you're doing this for a school project, you're probably not going to understand the architecture, is my guess, unless you're pretty experienced. So it's not as straightforward. The current project I'm working on, the code's there. It might be a little easier to understand because the code is smaller. But it is using HTMX on the front end. And it's not using any protocol on top of WebSocket. So that's another consideration. Lots of folks tend to default to Stomp. Which is basically a simple text protocol on top of WebSockets. I'm not sure I have a example handy for that. Yeah, so I'm not using Stomp because I don't need it. I basically am making up my own protocol. Stomp is fine though. I used it in the older code that's actually inside of this project. Uses Stomp, but then it uses Vue on the front end, so it may not be a simplified enough example either. Stomp has the advantage of it does heartbeat kinds of things. But for me, it gets in the way because I want to communicate directly with a raw WebSocket on the front end using HTMX. So HTMX doesn't support using something like Stomp. So that's actually the main reason I am not using Stomp. But if you're not using HTMX, if you're writing the front-end code yourself, Stomp is great. There's a couple of standard front-end libraries that support that. Some people use Socket.io. I don't see the point of that. I think that's, you don't need that overhead. And so if you're writing your own front end, then go ahead and use Stomp. That's probably a better way to go. I just don't have an example handy. I know I have one somewhere. I have a Discord, so that's a place you can ask more detailed questions. There's channels dedicated to Spring Boot. So I don't care about topics. I'm kind of handling it myself, because topics would be useful, but I'm kind of handling it myself. It's actually something I need to explore, because it would be nice if HTMX WebSocket extension supported Stomp. Because the topics would be useful, because then I wouldn't have to manage myself the communications that are happening with different games. But right now, I'm not worried about that. Okay, so let's just apply these and see what it looks like overall. That looks good, because it'll actually be much wider. So that's looking pretty good. Yeah, my pleasure. So let's commit that. I think that's all I need. I would like to convert this out of Tailwind. I remember coming across a utility. Yeah. Tail window. So let's say that I want that. And I think GPT, we can say goodbye. I didn't tell ChatGPT thanks. Display grid, top, bottom, left, right. It's interesting that it did that. Let's copy that. And come back here. And so this class is this just the game? Padding top and bottom, it could optimize that. I'm not sure why it didn't optimize that, because this is basically padding top, bottom, left, right. Where am I missing a semicolon? Oh, there. Thank you. I always have to laugh at missing semicolons. Like, well, if you knew it was missing, just put it in. Gap half a rem, max width 80 rem. I don't know if I want that. And height is the full viewport. Okay. Do I have any other CSS? Yeah, it worked out well for the JavaScript. Theme 2. Let's take these and convert that. That's weird. Why is this JSON? Like, I don't... That's really weird. I wish it would combine that stuff, but that's fine. We'll take that. And we will put that here. Oh, to put it in React, that would make sense. Is that really what this expands to? The box shadow? Maybe I want to keep around those things, because let's see, CSS, components, utilities. All right, let's just grab this and let's put it finally back into here. No, not that. Into a game. We'll come back to the sequence diagram in a minute. So what's going to be fun, I think we can take out this div. Where's my CSS? There it is. So I want to link, I want a href for that, close enough, game, href, static, game.css. And then in here, I basically want to get rid of all this and put that in. Debug is unused. Yes, thank you. I know that. Let's see that this still looks correct. That looks correct. There's our button. I want that to be green though, so let's fix that. Why is the text not right? Okay, so that looks good. Text white. Font semi-bold. Let's make the text bigger. Yeah. That's too much padding. There we go. All right. Now let's, before we throw in all of the HTML that we just created, let's do a commit. We'll commit that. And then we can close this for now. I'm going to take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll drop in the full game. And then we can start figuring out what we're targeting. The initial thing that we'll want is once the game starts query the state, it's going to go to the basically the the UI components that is for the different parts of the game. So there'll be like other players. And that'll be probably want that as a boundary. Like that. So we'll figure that out, but we'll take a break, or at least I'll take a break. You can do whatever you want. So we'll be back shortly. All right, and we're back. So now that we have at least a template placeholder for all of the pieces of information that we're going to need, sorry, just what popped into my head was, what am I going to target? And with HTMX, you can target IDs, but you can also target classes. I don't think I'm going to want to target classes, though. It just sort of crossed my mind as like, oh, maybe that'll be so I don't have to also have an ID. But each other player is going to require different IDs, so that's not going to work. Okay. Before I do that, let's see if we can get this to work. I think I'm going to have to change this stuff, which is because it's basically a modal, into an actual modal. But let's stick in, where's the browser? There it is. Let's go grab this HTML and we'll stick it in here. And let's see what that looks like. So that's all great, except this thing is all the way down here. That's not what we want. What we want is that actually to be a pop-up. So let's go figure out how to do that. These are panels. That's not what I want. I want overlays. Pretty much it's a dialog. I'm not sure why it requires HTML. Sorry, JavaScript. Well, let's grab this. Copy that. Go into our playground where we already have this thing. All right, Jonas, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks for some dino dancing. So, should we put this first or let's put it up front? So that looks good. So I don't need this. And I don't need all these comments because I'm not let's see, fixed inset. Oh, so this must be the background. So it basically dims the background. Make it a little brighter. Fixed inset 0, screen, flow Y auto, okay. And we'll grab this, pull this out. This is a bit more over much. We can just say P4 for this. I don't know what text that is, so I don't think that matters. Okay. I'm just trying to see where that is. We don't need this SVG. In fact, we don't need this div at all. And I think we can get rid of this too. And now we can drop in this thing. I think we can get rid of this. Yeah. And so then, okay, so that's that part. Let's we uncomment this. Is that going to work? No. How about now? No. Let's cut this out. Let's let IntelliJ uncomment it. Copy and then recomment it. And then we can stick it in here. There we go. And yeah, there we go. And so then once they press start game, do I delete this or do I just say style display none? So to see it, we basically display You say HTMX delete. I'm not gonna disagree. Why do you say that as opposed to display none? I mean, my thinking for deleting it is just we don't need it. So why have it take up DOM space? Yeah, that's my feeling. All right, so you see hide less effort. Technically, it's the same effort. I haven't even looked at HTMX delete. What does HTMX delete look like? Is it just a swap target replace? Yeah, so it's basically, I will want the placeholder. Yeah, I will want the container. Because I will want to have a place in the DOM to show future modals. I want to stay away from lots of modals, but I still want it to hang around. So let's see. So what do we need to change then here? Where is that? So okay, so that's the edge of our relative flex min H screen. We don't want that. So I think we just want this. So we want basically everything from here. I think I've got one too few divs, too many divs. What's the problem here? No, I need one more close. Another one? There we go. That's going to be fun. Are there rainbow divs? I used to have a plugin, rainbow brackets. I don't think I have that installed anymore. I think that might be standard issue. Oh, look, Jerry Themes is updated again. Yeah, it might be standard issue now. I wonder if they're ever going to upgrade Refactor Insight. It's a bummer. Yeah, I got some updating to do. I will do that later. Yeah, I think the coloring must be built in now. So, let's put it up here. Where did I put it here? It was at the top, and then the game screen was below. Right, okay. Awesome. So then, to make this disappear, I could just say style. Actually, I could just do hidden, and it's gone. Let's commit. All right. Oh, what happened to my borders? What happened to all my good borders? Oh, I wonder if it's not pulling in my game CSS. Oh, it's not able to apply the border stuff, right? Because that's not being processed. Let's just convert these. So what we want to do is grab this one. There we go. So those are those borders. And let's I guess I'll keep these as separate. I was thinking, do I want to combine these classes? But I think I'll keep them separate for now. So for this, it's border. Let's see what it comes up with. That's fine. Except I had a background. Where'd it go? Yeah, I had a background of slate. Did that not get converted? That didn't get converted. Did I not paste it? Oh, it doesn't know background slate. So background slate, what are you? Grab that. There we go. And it's pretty much exactly the same for this. There we go. All right. I think that's it. I didn't have borders for anything else, so... yeah, let's do a commit. All right, so all right, so that's the modal dialog. Currently it's hidden. And so now we can start thinking about, so the game starts. The information we need is who are the players. So we'll target the other players. Just thinking about the identifiers. So we can minimize that. So the identifier for this is just player one name. Or player name one. So we've got other player name one here, and then basically it's the same for the other two. And then similar for, I guess, these will just be iterated. Okay. So, so we post to start the game. We grab basically grab the players, and then we target we need to broadcast the player names. So that's the, does a game start? I mean, I guess we could populate it before we do game start. So we do game start, add the player names. Would be nice to assign pawn colors, but I think I can get away without that for now. And then basically for each player, So there's I wonder if I should just group those together into a single component and just target other player. So then I can transform each player into the component. Yeah, that makes more sense. So it's really, again, render. And there's some loop here. I forget how to do looping in PlantUML. Those are groups. I guess I could do grouping. Yeah. So group. Oh, can I actually just say loop? Let's try that. Ha! Loop for each player. Thank you. And that's n. Yeah, there we go. So we need a component that takes a player and renders that box. Let's dive into what do I want to dive into first? So I could either do sort of depth first, basically just render the player's name, or I could start dealing with all of the card decks shuffling, dealing stuff. Anybody have any opinions? Here, I know. Okay, so your choices are, and then I need to take another quick break. Your choices are full render for player. So that's the all the way to game, grab the player, render just the player name because that's all we currently have. Or dive into game and start doing all of the stuff around cards and dealing cards and things like that. So vote early, vote once, because that's all you get. And I'll be right back. All right, looks like we've got dive into the domain and deal with the stuff there. All right. The people have spoken. Well, even if you had voted Astrid, you would have lost. All right, so let's basically start game is going to have to do a bunch of things. So let's, and we can close this. Let's do a commit. Minor updates. And let's go look at Jira. So, so basically, we'll defer sort of the UI aspect because now we know what we need, and we'll go back to the behavior of the game. So let's take a look. It's been a while since we actually looked at that stuff. So currently game only has, what's it got? It's got create or reconstitute, and it's got join, and we can get the list of players. So the next step is we need our action card deck. So again, sort of focusing on what is the minimal game support I need in order for me to personally host games, and that is I need action cards. So we've already got a bunch of code from our earlier implementation, so let's see what we can pull in from there. So we've got Card Factory. Let's take a look at that. And so we've got playing card, which takes a playing card definition. And playing card definition is here. So these are the playing card definitions. These, I think, are all the cards that we want. But I think I don't want to take it exactly as is. So the first thing I need to do is create the card deck. So our default deck factory looks like this. And this defines basically the cards that are in the action deck. So one of the important features of most games that are card-based is you have the choose pile or the pick pile, and then the discard pile. And so the discard pile, then when we run out of cards here, we shuffle this, and those become new cards to pick from. And so I treated the deck as a component that had both parts. So if we look at deck, let's look at deck. So what is deck? Deck has two things. It has a draw pile, which is a queue, and a discard pile, which is a list. And then it has a shuffler. And so what happens is when we try to draw, if the draw pile is empty, we basically replenish from the discard pile, which shuffles and then adds all the cards to the draw pile and then clears the discard pile. So what's nice about this is when I create the card, when I create the deck, I just have to add them all to the discard pile, and the next draw will basically do all the shuffling for me, so I don't have to shuffle it right up front. What's nice is then I have one place where I do the shuffling. So I think I'll keep that design because I like that. That's nice. So let's grab our deck. And what are the tests for that? So this is going to be really interesting because it's been a while since I've sort of scavenged code from another project. Like once you pull on one of these objects, like it pulls in a whole bunch of things. So this one, its dependencies are on, does this depend on anything? This only depends on a shuffler. There's no other dependencies here. So deck we can take directly. So we've got create deck test. Which depends on a card factory. So how do I want to do this? Yes, shuffler is a port. Or it should have been. Where is it? I've got random card shuffler, which is a card shuffler. That just in the wrong place. It should be a port, and this should be the concrete implementation. But it's a funny answer. I kind of remember creating these factories. I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure I like the abstractions. So I like the deck abstraction. I don't like the deck factory abstraction. Maybe I'll end up there again anyway, but right now it feels like a bit much. The way the old implementation was, deck was fine because it relied on the port card shuffler. So card shuffler itself is just an interface. So this should have been in a port. But you're right. Actually, the card shuffler should not. It should not, right, because it can't rely on it because it's in domain. Yeah, so So I remember how we dealt with this in the blackjack game. I might have to do it the same way. It's a bit annoying, though. I remember being annoyed by it before, and from a strict IO separation of concerns, it's kind of, I mean, it's too bad because yeah, basically it's fully encapsulated and it can shuffle itself. Let's see. So the player, yeah. So if I continue to be pure about the separation, then it means that when a player draws a card, the code that does sort of the shuffling is then in, or at least the code that causes the shuffle to happen is then in the application layer. I mean, it's not terrible. Because the draw is going to happen based on the user doing something. So it has to come in through the application layer anyway. So they say draw. Let's actually dig into the start game. So we call start game on game. Here, though, we have to do the initial deal. So would it be game, player, draw a card from action deck? Yeah, I don't know if it's better. Even from a testability standpoint, I'm not sure it's better. I'm not quite sure it's worse. Yeah, I mean, the way it would work with the pure separation is when the application says draw, before it says draw, it says can draw, or basically something like, you know, has cards. Or it can even just say something like, if draw pile is empty, shuffle, and here's the shuffler. The problem is here in the initial deal, I mean, we could assume that the initial deal you never run out of cards. And then we don't have to worry about it. So it'd be something like the game tells the player, draw to full from this action deck. So I guess it's, if we sort of say testability is not harmed, encapsulation is improved by relaxing the constraint that domain cannot access even indirectly IO, that would make this easier. So for me, as long as testability is not harmed, I think I'm okay with it. It is, as long as it's not like IO, even though I sort of put this under the IO banner, it is hardware access. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. Well, we have the pure example right here in our blackjack game. So let's look to see what that looks like. So somewhere in be not in a domain, be in the application, game service, basically player hits. Where do we... Where do we shuffle? Let's go to the shoe. Actually, do we do that in the blackjack game? I know we shuffle it here. We create a random deck. We actually don't reshuffle, do we? We just run out of cards. And that's why we had the shoe for multiple decks. So yeah, that's right. Actually, we didn't deal with it in this version of the game. Did we do that in the other one? I remember implementing this. But this is the only reference. Yeah, and this is called only here when we create the shoe. Yeah, so now I'm wondering, was it, did we do that here? We haven't had an orange stream in a while, an orange ensemble. So, oh, it's indexing. Don't index. Let's change the SDK. Don't index that one. Just go to 22. You can stop indexing that one. So let's see, application. So where did we shuffle? We may not have done that at all in this one. So that was another universe. I'll close this one for now. Yeah, so so it's not this one, yeah. I kind of want to do it. Do I want to do it both ways? Because I feel like the fully encapsulated deck with a shuffler that's given to it fulfills the testability, but does break the purity. And the other way just feels like it's going to be a little awkward. Well, even if you go nullable, you still have to have an interface. The interface is would be inside of the deck, but you still have to have an interface. But it would not be externalized, and I'm in favor of that, because it's not like there are. So the only reason to have multiple implementations is for testability. So create null would so yeah, the embedded stub. Yeah, I mean, technically it's an interface, but you're right, it's not a public interface. Yeah. I think we'll go that way. Because then things like this are going to be much easier. The player just has to draw until they're full, and they know when they're full. They know when they know when their hand is full. Because likely it's going to be hand to action deck draw, and then loop. So it's basically that. Do what together? The embedded stub? Pretty sure we did that a couple of times. Oh, the nullable dice roller. Yes. Well, everything in Yacht we did together. Because the old one had... I'd have to look back and see what the old one was like. So we'd have to go back. It is the exact same problem, yes. Wow, that just pegged my CPU. So way back here. Where is it? So that was a score. So we did the die first, yes. So we inlined the dice roller into the game service. Tested dice rolling. Yeah, so this is the die roller. And so basically we use the random wrapper. Yeah. So you're right. It is exactly the same thing. So we're going to go that way because I think that's a lot better. And so we'd have a create null that probably we can do a little bit higher level. I likely want to specify, because here it was easy because the sort of the abstraction is literally dice, and here are the dice that I want, because I'm going to check that these are the dice that were processed properly. In the game, we're going to want cards. So instead of die roller, is this... This might be the deck, and the deck has a create null about how we want the cards to be produced. We either want them shuffled, or we want them in a specific order. So I think that's the level of abstraction that we want. So the nullable with the embedded stub will be the deck. Right? Because basically it's, do we use shuffler or do we use the order defined in the... Yeah, internally it's going to wrap here, shuffle it. And it will either use the configured order or it will randomize it. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking more, what is the create null parameters? The create null parameters are going to be the action cards in a list of action cards in this order. Internally, what gets wrapped is right, because you always want to wrap the hardware. Yeah. So let's do that. Or let's start doing that. So let's go here. Boy, having TDD game and TDD yacht in my list here is going to confuse the heck out of me. So since we've already established that this deck is a nice abstraction, we're going to basically rewrite it to use the nullibles. So let's do that. And we'll start out, may as well start out with it generified. I'm wondering if I want to copy the whole thing. So let's see, can we find the deck test? So what do we want to say about a new deck? Probably that has cards in a specific order. Yeah, this test isn't going to help me much, so let's go start writing our stuff. So let's close that. This one we might use. We'll close that, and I think this we'll use in another form. So let's go ahead and create. Okay, why do I keep forgetting what it is? It's, oh, it's control option N. There it is, but not in this directory. Let's go to our real code, which is down here. So this is going to be in our domain, and we're going to create deck. And then we'll create a test for this. Oops. And we're going to start nesting because what we want is so it's interesting that it pulled that code from the test from that other code I was just looking at. I do kind of want something like that, but it's going to be a much simpler setup. So we want to say that when we create a deck, we should be able to draw all the cards in the deck as we've set them up. So we're going to need to define card. I called them playing card, but this should actually be action card. We pretty much just need a title for now. And this might turn into an enum. I'm not sure, right? But in my previous design, I had enums for the definitions and then the cards themselves. But then that leads to the title being a string when it doesn't really need to be. But we'll start there. All right, Astrid, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. So let's go ahead and say that we want action card. We'll go ahead and create that class. right now it basically won't have much in it, other than we won't call it name, we will call it title. And that needs to be not in test. So we've got deck of action cards. So deck, let's parameterize that. And here we're just going to say new deck. It's like it's now, Cody's now been poisoned by the other code that I was looking at, which is really frustrating. My LLM has been poisoned by its training data. I'm just going to create an empty deck, actually. And no, I take that back. Let's create our list of cards. And we're going to basically say I think what we'll do is I know we're going to need proper action cards. So I kind of actually want to make this an enum to start out with. So let's go to our playing card definition. We'll grab this enum. And we're going to change this to an enum and get rid of all this and put this in here. Eventually, we're going to want some of these aspects of it, which tell us, which tell the game when you draw the card, where does it go? Most cards go into your hand, but sometimes they go into the in play or tech neglect area. When you play them, sometimes they go into the workspace and sometimes they get discarded immediately. And that's what these are. But we're not going to use that just yet. And so we'll want basically that, yeah. Okay. And then we will need to expose title. Yes, just like that. Thank you, Cody. Okay, so we've got our action cards. Now we'll create some. I don't know where Cody's getting that from. So we would like, we'll just create a few cards. So we'll say, yeah, I guess. I don't know where it got draw to from. It must be Uno, because I don't know anything else that has a draw to in it. That's hilarious. So we want action card. We'll add a predict. Reveal. No. Write code. And less code. That looks good. One has to wonder what the training data is for that. Okay. So we've got action cards. We've got a new deck with those action cards. So we would like to do a deck.draw. I don't need your comment, Cody. And we would like to assign that to action card. Let's go implement that method. Return null. And so our first step is to assert that oh man, you are so infected by my previous work. Go away. I don't even think you... do we need to test the non-null version? Yeah, that would be fine. I wouldn't even need more than 2 cards. And then, yeah, basically draw 4 times and we should have 2 of each. Technically, I could put 1 card in there, and I should be able to draw it twice. But 2 cards might be easier to understand. Close, but no guitar. Predict. All right, so this is the most basically well, if I had I would add fewer cards. So for the if I'm testing that when I run out they shuffle, I would use fewer cards in the first place. So I'd only have 2 cards in the deck. I'm fine with writing 1 test for that. All right, so this is the most basic test. This will certainly fail. And no, yes. So now I think we can cheat a bit. What do we say? Draw pile is a queue, so let's convert this to a queue. And this is right, because that should be a linked list. Look, I'm using a linked list. Are there other implementations that I should be using instead? I'm really not going to worry about it. Okay. Yeah, so the question is what does this constructor mean? They should not be going on the queue. They should be going on, because that's how I designed it. Basically add to discard. So I'm going to assume that a new deck with these cards, the draw pile is empty. So let's actually start there, because I don't want to add these to those. I actually want to add them to the discard pile. I'll throw that in there. And this is the draw pile. So eventually this will be to the discard pile. So even before I do draw, we want another test. I'm fine with keeping that one. So we're going to have another test, which is new deck has empty draw pile. Okay. So here, it's where it doesn't matter. We'll just grab a couple of these. That's our deck. So the question we want to ask is assert and that should be is true. And we'll go ahead and create that. So that'll fail because it's false. The other one fails because of null. All right, and so now draw pile Draw pile is empty. Yeah, that's all I need for this test. Okay, so now I can go on to this test, and I should be able to draw this card. So let's, we already saw that test fail, so we'll say discard pile, add all cards. And then this is I think I have to add that code. So basically, if the draw pile is empty, so I can start by saying, without this stuff, draw pile remove. This should actually now still fail because draw pile is empty, but we're trying to remove from it and no such element. And so replenish from discard is now, what did we do? We just shuffled it, right? But we're not going to shuffle yet. And do I want to assert that the discard pile is now empty? I'm okay with doing this. Okay. So this should pass. Yeah, it does. Okay. I don't know why you made that public. Now it'd be convenient to have a draw multiple cards, but I'm not quite sure what that's going to need, what that need is going to look like from the application layer. So I'm going to leave that out for now. I'm going to inline this because what I want to do now is this should be write code, refactor, and less code. Do I want to assert that the draw pile is empty? Cody thinks I should do that. Yeah, that's true. I wonder how much more readable that is. That's probably a little bit more readable. But this test should pass. Okay. So let's say, instead of that, we're going to say list of action card. That's funny. That's close. You're close, Cody. We want to just say draw yes, that's what I'd like. And then we want to assert that drawn cards contains exactly. See, that's where Cody comes in handy. Draw end cards? I don't know. I could just say draw cards because it's clear that there's a parameter there. So let's go implement this. Haha, this is broken. I don't think this does what it... Does list of return a mutable list? I don't think so. Yeah. In fact, does IntelliJ warn against that? It does. Very nice. So we want new array list. Otherwise, that's fine. We could have used an in-stream and then mapped to drawing cards, but no, this is a lot more clear. All right, so this should still pass. I'm just wondering why. Oh, right. So I was wondering why is this test, this player connector test, taking so long? And now I remember. Soft assertions assert softly is slow. It is slow. And it's really annoying because it's slow. And I remember reporting this issue. I'll have to go check on what happened. But like this test is noticeably slow. If I run it by itself, like you can see it, see the spinner. Like it's 3/4 of a second. And it's all because this takes like half a second. It must be. I remember looking into it. I don't remember the details, but it's basically, yeah, it's terrible. And I think the last time I used it, I ended up taking it out because it was too slow. So. How did I fix it last time? Oh. 3.24. They're up to 3.26. I don't think they've fixed anything in this area. Right, I think what I did is I moved the assertions to the verify. That's what I did. So let's do that because I know it's only half a second, but it's been annoying me all day. So I'll basically store the game and store the player. Let's call these actual player. And this is actual game. Create the field. Create the field. Take this out of here and put it here. Take that out. Take that out. Take that out. Take that out. And then this is actual game. And this is actual player. Okay. So now when I run my free tests, yeah, boom. Like the whole thing took less than running just that one test. Yeah. Lesson learned. I want to commit that separately, so let's do this. Okay, and let's commit the rest. And I think, is that it for today? I think that's it for today. So, the reason why I moved it to the verify is if it failed during the call, then it's harder. Then it's a little harder to tell what actually happened. So if I do the direct assertions here, I mean, it sort of doesn't matter. I'm already doing an assertion here, so it just feels more consistent to do it here. And I did the soft assertions because I wanted to see if both matched, but I think this is just better. But yeah, I don't think there's much other than that. It's kind of, so the other thing is if I do the assertion in this method that I had the soft assertions before, what IntelliJ will show is that actually this failed, when in reality it's basically my verify failed. If nothing else, it's more consistent here. So barely sufficient reason. All right, so I think we're done for today. Tomorrow we'll continue working on drawing cards from a deck. So we've got draw, we've got, so what's the next test that we're gonna want is we're gonna want, so we're draw already replenishes from the discard. We're going to want to be able to add to the discard pile. And then we're going to make it nullable. So the next steps are so create action card deck container able to draw and replenish on discard. So that's done. What's next is add to discard pile. And then I don't know if nullabilize is a word. With an embedded stub for shuffling. Is it really an embedded stub? Is it really a stub? It's not really a stub. It's really actually an embedded. It's like I mean, because it's not a stub. The stub only returns values. It's actually an embedded fake. I'm not sure. Let's see. So, because it's two ways. It's an embedded not modifier. I don't know. I'm not sure what to call it. It's not an embedded stub though. Because basically you give it the cards. Yes, if I say give me well actually that's a good point. What am I going to use it? It's an embedded stub if I've configured it. I guess it is an embedded stub. Because when I'm using the stub, it is just returning the cards that I configured. Okay, thank you. I was still thinking like I want to shuffle it in this way, but that's actually not what I'm doing. I think that'll become clear once we start implementing that. So once we nullabilize the deck, we will have a deck that is shuffled. We then need we'll draw to full. So that gets the cards in their hand. And then players before that actually need, well, so if you draw a red card, immediately gets played to the tech neglect area. We probably don't need it until later, but eventually player will need so once we have that, we will be able to draw cards for each player, draw a hand to full. If along the way any cards get automatically played, those will turn up into the tech neglect area. Then we can switch back to then we'll basically switch back to working on the UI. So that'll be tomorrow. So thanks everyone for hanging out and helping out. As always, I appreciate it. If you want to get your own copy of the physical game, right, this thing, you will then get access, early access to the online version of this game. Otherwise, I encourage you to join the Discord if you're not already there, and you can ask all your questions and bring up various discussions about this or anything related to this stuff. Otherwise, tomorrow, same time, same channel, and we'll pick it up from there. Thanks.